Welcome to Tsar Narrator. Let's today talk about Iran versus Israel. The Middle East, a cauldron of ancient civilizations and modern conflicts, hold no shortage of enduring rivalries. Yet few are as complex and fraught with danger as the one between Iran and Israel. Their story is not a simple tale of two enemies locked in perpetual struggle. It's a narrative that has seen periods of cooperation, punctuated by moments of intense hostility, ultimately leading to the precarious standoff we witness today. Understanding this intricate relationship requires a journey back in time. They are delving into the historical events and ideological clashes that have shaped their animosity. The story of Iran and Israel is not one of inherent enmity. In the decades preceding the Iranian Revolution, their relationship was marked by a pragmatic alliance driven by shared strategic interests. The Cold War cast a long shadow over the Middle East, and both Iran, under the Shah's rule, and the nascent state of Israel found themselves aligned against a common threat: Soviet expansionism. This shared concern fostered a bond between the two nations, leading to unprecedented cooperation. Before the Iranian Revolution, Iran and Israel were relatively friendly, driven by common strategic interests. Both countries, under the Shah of Iran and Israel's early leadership, shared concerns about Arab nationalism, and Iran provided Israel with oil while receiving military and technological assistance. The notion of Iran and Israel, today locked in a seemingly intractable struggle, having shared a period of cooperation, might seem like a historical anomaly. Yet, for nearly 3 decades following Israel's establishment in 1948, the two nations maintained a surprisingly cordial, albeit largely covert, relationship. This partnership, born out of shared strategic interests rather than ideological affinity, defied the prevailing narratives of the Middle East and underscored the often surprising ways in which realpolitik can shape international relations. The Iran-Israel alliance, though shrouded in secrecy, brought tangible benefits to both sides. For Israel, struggling to establish itself in a hostile neighborhood and facing frequent boycotts from Arab nations, Iran provided a crucial lifeline. Iranian oil, flowing steadily through pipelines and tankers, helped fuel Israel's burgeoning economy and reduce its dependence on less reliable sources. Beyond oil, Israel benefited from Iran's strategic location and its influence within various international organizations. As the 1970s progressed, the Palestinian issue continued to cast a long shadow over the Iran-Israel alliance. The Shah, walking a tightrope between his strategic partnership with Israel and his desire to maintain his standing within the Muslim world, found himself increasingly torn. He sought to balance his support for Israel with gestures of solidarity towards the Palestinians, a delicate balancing act that ultimately proved unsustainable. The year 1979 marked a watershed moment in the Middle East, one that would irrevocably alter the trajectory of the Iran-Israel relationship. The Iranian Revolution, a popular uprising fueled by a potent mix of religious fervor and anti-Western sentiment, swept away the Shah's regime and ushered in a new era of Islamic rule. Ruhollah Khomeini, a charismatic cleric who had spent years in exile, emerged as the supreme leader of the newly established Islamic Republic of Iran. Iran became a theocratic Islamic republic under Ayatollah Khomeini, and its policy toward Israel drastically changed. Khomeini labeled Israel as the Little Satan, compared to the US, the Great Satan, marking the beginning of Iran's strong ideological opposition to Israel's existence. Tehran severed all ties and became a vocal advocate for the Palestinian cause. The collapse of the Shah's regime and the rise of an ideologically driven Islamic Republic in Iran had profound implications for the Middle East. One of the most significant consequences was the escalation of proxy conflicts, with Iran and Israel increasingly engaging in a shadow war fought through intermediaries. Lebanon, already a battleground for various factions and foreign powers, became a primary arena for this proxy war. The Iranian Revolution swept away the Shah's regime, sending shockwaves throughout the region and beyond. The Shah, once perceived as a pillar of stability in the region, fled into exile, leaving behind a power vacuum that was quickly filled by a new breed of revolutionaries led by Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. The rupture in Iran-Israel relations following the 1979 revolution was swift, decisive, and seemingly irreparable. The new Islamic Republic, with its fervent revolutionary zeal and its ideologically driven foreign policy, wasted no time in dismantling the remnants of the Shah's era, including any semblance of cooperation with Israel. This dramatic shift had profound implications for both nations, altering the regional balance of power and setting the stage for decades of mistrust and hatred. The Iranian Revolution's ripple effects extended beyond the immediate rupture in Iran-Israel relations. The emergence of a revolutionary Islamic Republic in Tehran, with its ambition to export its ideology and reshape the regional order, sending shockwaves throughout the Middle East, particularly among the Arab states and the broader Muslim world. This newfound assertiveness, coupled with Iran's willingness to challenge the status quo, had profound implications for the region's delicate balance of power, placing Israel in an increasingly precarious position. At the heart of the Islamic Republic's foreign policy lay a deep-seated ideological opposition to Israel's existence, a stance rooted in Ayatollah Khomeini's worldview. Khomeini, a staunch critic of Western imperialism and a fervent believer in the universality of Islamic principles, viewed Israel as an illegitimate entity, a foreign implant imposed upon the Muslim world by Western powers. This perception, shared by many within the revolution's ranks, shaped Iran's policies towards Israel, transforming it from a pragmatic partnership into one of open hostility. Central to Iran's strategy in confronting Israel has been the cultivation and support of non-state actors, militant groups that share its anti-Israeli ideology and its ambition to reshape the regional order. This reliance on proxies, a tactic employed by various actors throughout history, has allowed Iran to project power, exert pressure on Israel, and advance its interests without engaging in direct, large-scale military confrontation. This approach, while offering certain advantages, also carries inherent risks, contributing to the volatility and unpredictability of the Middle East's security landscape. Hezbollah, Arabic for Party of God, stands as the most potent symbol of Iran's success in cultivating and supporting anti-Israel proxies. Forged in the crucible of Lebanon's civil war and nurtured by Iran's unwavering patronage, Hezbollah has evolved from a guerrilla force into a formidable political and military entity, wielding significant influence in Lebanon and posing a persistent challenge to Israel's security. Its rise to prominence underscores the complexities of the Middle East's geopolitical landscape, where non-state actors often play an outsized role in shaping events. While Hezbollah has emerged as Iran's most potent proxy, Hamas, a Palestinian Islamist organization that controls the Gaza Strip, has also benefited from Iranian support. It is becoming a persistent thorn in Israel's side. Hamas, with its control over a densely populated territory bordering Israel and its unwavering commitment to armed struggle, has proven to be a formidable adversary, capable of inflicting casualties, disrupting daily life in Israel, and challenging the Israeli government's security policies. Iran, recognizing Hamas's potential as a disruptive force and a vehicle for advancing its interests, began providing financial and military support, bolstering the group's capabilities and deepening its anti-Israel stance. Looming over the already volatile relationship between Iran and Israel is the spectre of nuclear proliferation. The greatest friction in recent decades has centered around Iran's nuclear program. Israel views a nuclear-armed Iran as an existential threat, while Iran asserts that its nuclear program is for peaceful purposes. With its sophisticated intelligence, Israel has engaged in covert activities to disrupt Iran's nuclear program. They have been actively involved in efforts to sabotage Iran's nuclear ambitions, allegedly through cyber attacks, espionage, and even the assassination of Iranian nuclear scientists. The Stuxnet worm, discovered in 2010, is a high-profile example. Believed to be a US-Israel project, Stuxnet targeted PLCs in Iranian nuclear facilities. Iran's nuclear program, shrouded in secrecy and subject to intense international scrutiny, has become a focal point of tension, fueling a dangerous cycle of mistrust and raising the stakes in an already combustible region. At the heart of this issue lies a fundamental question. Is Iran seeking to develop nuclear weapons, or are its ambitions purely peaceful, as Tehran insists? The answer remains elusive, a source of endless debate and speculation among intelligence agencies, policymakers, and analysts worldwide. Iran maintains that its nuclear program is solely for civilian purposes, aimed at generating electricity and advancing scientific research. However, its lack of transparency, its history of concealing sensitive nuclear activities, and its continued enrichment of uranium have fueled skepticism and alarm, particularly in Israel, which views a nuclear-armed Iran as an existential threat. The Iranian nuclear issue, with its potential to spark a regional conflagration and upend the global non-proliferation regime, has become a perennial fixture on the international stage, a diplomatic Gordian knot that has defied countless attempts at resolution. The standoff, characterized by mistrust, miscalculation, and a dangerous dose of brinkmanship, has pitted Iran against a coalition of Western powers, led by the United States, each side suspicious of the other's motives and wary of making concessions that could be perceived as weakness. The international community, through the United Nations Security Council, has imposed a series of sanctions on Iran, targeting its economy, its financial institutions, and its ability to import and export sensitive technologies. These sanctions, while intended to pressure Iran into curbing its nuclear program, have had a devastating impact on the Iranian economy, fueling inflation, unemployment, and social unrest. Iran, for its part, has condemned the sanctions as illegal and unjust, accusing the West of hypocrisy and double standards. At the heart of the Iran-Israel conflict lies a profound ideological chasm, a clash of worldviews that has fueled mistrust, animosity, and a seemingly intractable struggle. This ideological divide, rooted in religious convictions, historical narratives, and competing visions for the Middle East, continues to shape the contours of the conflict, hindering any prospect of reconciliation. Iran's current leadership, steeped in the principles of Shia Islam and guided by Ayatollah Khomeini's doctrine of exporting the revolution, views Israel as an illegitimate entity, a foreign implant imposed upon the Muslim world by Western powers. This perception, reinforced by decades of anti-Israeli rhetoric and propaganda, has become deeply ingrained within segments of Iranian society, fueling a sense of righteous indignation and a belief that Israel's existence is a stain on the Islamic world. Beyond, the Iran-Israel conflict is also fueled by competing geopolitical ambitions and a classic security dilemma, where one side's quest for security is perceived as a threat by the other, leading to a spiral of mistrust and escalation. Iran, seeking to establish itself as a dominant power in the Middle East, has adopted a strategy of challenging the regional order, often at Israel's expense, while Israel, determined to maintain its military superiority and regional deterrence, views Iran's growing influence with trepidation, interpreting its actions through the lens of an existential threat. Iran, under its theocratic leadership, sees the Israeli state as illegitimate due to its occupation of Palestinian territories and what Iran perceives as the oppression of Muslims. Israel, on the other hand, sees Iran's goal of eliminating the Zionist entity, Israel, as a direct existential threat. They provide extensive military and financial aid to groups like Hezbollah and Hamas, which frequently engages in conflict with Israel. This proxy warfare is a major factor in the continued hostilities. Iran's pursuit of regional hegemony has manifested in its support for allied regimes and militant groups across the Middle East, from Hezbollah in Lebanon to Shia militias in Iraq and Syria. This network of proxies, often referred to as Iran's axis of resistance, has extended Tehran's reach, allowing it to project power, counter Israeli and Western influence, and shape the regional security landscape to its advantage. Both nations possess formidable military capabilities. Israel has sophisticated air defense systems such as Iron Dome and David's Sling, while Iran has a large missile arsenal and a network of proxy forces. Major cities in both nations could face severe damage from missile strikes, aerial bombardments, and ground incursions. Given the dense urban populations of both countries, civilian casualties would likely be high, particularly in Lebanon, Gaza, and Israel, where Hezbollah and Hamas would be engaged. The prospect of a full-scale war between Iran and Israel evokes chilling scenarios with potentially catastrophic consequences for the entire region and the wider world. The sheer destructive power at the disposal of both sides makes such a conflict a terrifying prospect. It could unleash a humanitarian disaster and destabilize the global order. The interconnectedness of the Middle East means a war between Iran and Israel would cause many problems. Such a conflict would draw in neighboring states, exacerbating tensions and igniting a wider conflagration. Other regional actors, such as Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Gulf states, could become involved militarily or politically. Iran's proxies in Iraq, Syria, and Yemen could also be drawn into the conflict, turning the entire Middle East into a war zone. The economic consequences of these full-scale wars would be felt far beyond the Middle East, sending shockwaves through the global economy and potentially triggering a global recession. The region, home to some of the world's largest oil and natural gas reserves, plays a vital role in global energy markets. A major conflict in the Persian Gulf, a key transit route for oil tankers, could disrupt global energy supplies, sending oil prices soaring and creating economic havoc. The Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway between Iran and Oman, is a particularly vulnerable choke point. Approximately 20% of the world's oil supply passes through this strait, making it a strategic prize and a potential flashpoint. Iran, in an attempt to pressure the West and disrupt global oil supplies, could try to close the strait, either through direct military action or by threatening shipping lanes with mines or missile attacks. The most terrifying aspect of a war between Iran and Israel is the potential for nuclear escalation. Israel is widely believed to have a nuclear arsenal, and Iran has made significant strides in its nuclear program. The fog of war and the potential for miscalculation could increase the risk of a catastrophic misjudgment. Israel has never confirmed or denied possessing nuclear weapons, but it has stated it will not allow Iran to acquire such weapons. This stance has led to speculation of a preemptive strike against Iranian nuclear facilities. The story of Iran and Israel is a testament to enduring historical grievances and ideological clashes. What began as a pragmatic alliance has descended into a bitter rivalry, fueled by mistrust and animosity. Decades of animosity, punctuated by proxy wars and covert operations, have left an indelible mark on both nations. The 1979 Iranian Revolution marked a decisive break, altering the dynamics of the relationship with Israel. In Iran, the official narrative portrays Israel as an illegitimate entity, a cancerous tumor that must be removed from the Middle East. This view is propagated through state-controlled media, religious sermons and educational institutions, has been reinforced by decades of support for Palestinian militant groups and by portraying Iran as a bulwark against Western imperialism and Israeli aggression. While there may be a diversity of views within Iranian society, particularly among younger generations with access to alternative sources of information, public expressions of sympathy for Israel or calls for normalization are rare and often met with hostility or even official repression. The Iran-Israel conflict, with its complex web of grievances, its volatile mix of ideological and geopolitical factors, and its potential for catastrophic escalation, represents one of the most dangerous flashpoints in the 21st century. Navigating this precipice, avoiding a devastating war, and finding a path to a more stable and peaceful future will require a Herculean effort from all parties involved, a delicate balancing act of diplomacy, deterrence, and a willingness to challenge deeply entrenched assumptions and prejudices. Diplomacy, however elusive it may seem in the current climate of mistrust and animosity, remains the only viable path to a lasting solution. While direct negotiations between Iran and Israel may seem like a distant prospect, there are indirect channels of communication that could be utilized, such as back-channel diplomacy, track-2 dialogues involving former officials and experts, or regional initiatives that bring together key stakeholders. Building trust will be a long and arduous process, requiring patience, persistence, and a willingness to engage in good faith. The future of the Iran-Israel relationship remains shrouded in uncertainty, a volatile mix of potential dangers and fleeting opportunities. The two countries stand at a crossroads, their destinies intertwined in a complex dance of rivalry and mistrust. Whether they will continue on their current trajectory or find a way to manage their differences remains an open question. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more content. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Until next time, keep exploring and stay curious.